are back at it.
You expect to not get your teeth kicked in on your home field by Tulsa!
Champions of the Big 12.
This is not the 1980s OSU.
Remember, always have faith in God, but have faith in yourself, and certainly have faith in the Cowboys.
We are back at it. Welcome back to another edition of the Pistols Firing Podcast. I'm Carson Cunningham, joined as always by Colby Powell. Colby, what a weekend we had in store. Plenty to get to with wrestling and much, much, much more. How are you doing on this weekend?
Great. Yeah, great weekend. Zoo yesterday with the fam. We were going to go buy a new TV today, and then I fixed the old TV, so we didn't have to do that. So that was a nice little $500 gift to ourselves that we didn't have to spend on a new TV. So, yeah, everything's coming up Powell's this weekend. How about yourself?
I had a great weekend. Just got back in town. Took the girls to Sulphur, Oklahoma. Went to Turner Falls area. Stayed at the Artesian Hotel down there in Sulphur, America. I tell you, it's a different way of life. Our girls and us, we're kind of in our Edmond bubble. And when we go outside the bubble, we see a new side of the state. It was good to get them out in rural America. Got the fried pies there at the Arbuckle Fried Pie place. Partook in the waterfalls. Oh, they were good. We had like the pastry ones the first trip, and on the way out of town we stopped by and got like the breakfast fried pies. Oh man, they were delightful. Had a great time.
That's just, we can't spend too much time talking about fried pies. I could talk about fried pies the entire podcast. Fried pies is, is that top tier dessert? We don't have to sit here and do dessert rankings, but sometime this summer we can do them, and fried pies is going to be way near the top.
I don't think I had one before. I think that was my first experience. So it's a new experience for me. I really, really enjoyed it. But no, we had a great time.
Yeah, highly recommend.
Away for spring break, and I was monitoring the wrestling from the hotel room. The girls watched. They just got used to wrestling being on the screen, which never happens. They were just like, "Why is he bleeding? Why is this happening?" I was like, "Girls, she's a wrestling school. This is what we do. The guy in orange is who we're pulling for." So they kind of just got used to March Madness and, of course, March Matness being on the TV. So they're saying I'm super quiet. I better raise my levels here. But other than that, Colby, we had a really good time.
It's my daughter. She's almost 4, and so last night she was watching Madagascar. So I came in the kitchen to cook dinner and pulled the wrestling up on my phone. And she came in there to check up and see what I was doing. She looked over at my phone and she said, "Hey, look, it's the wrestlers." And I was like, "Yeah, baby, it's the wrestlers. There's big wrestling matches tonight." And she said, "Is this the Cowboys?" I said, "This is the Cowboys." You could have confused them. I would have understood if she would have looked at the phone and seen the orange and thought that it was the Dogs, Carson. Careful next time you're in Stillwater, because there's dogs on the loose. Sergio Vega, dog. Landon Robidieu, dog. Jax Forrest, dog. Everywhere you look, dogs.
Man. Yes, we have a lot of dogs to get to. Robideau, Robidog, however you want to refer to him. Jax Forrest. I had to speak, little girl. Who's our guy? The guy that looks like Ken from the Barbie movie. That's Jax Forrest for the time being till his natural hair grows out. But before we get to all the wrestling, welcome into everyone. We are live on YouTube. If you're watching this, if you're an audio listener, we were live on YouTube on this Sunday afternoon. But first, let's get to Chris's University Spirit, your one-stop Cowboy shop. Be sure to shop at chrisuniversityspirit.com. We appreciate Chris's sponsoring the show as always. I'm sure they'll have plenty of wrestling memorabilia, wrestling gear. You want to stop by Chris's anytime you are in Stillwater. Appreciate them sponsoring the show. I think I fixed my volume, so appreciate Robbie letting me know that I was a little low. But we have plenty to get to here. And first, let's just get right to it, Colby. I mean, we have a lot of takes to get to with Sergio Vega, with Jax Forrest, certainly with Landon Robidieu as well. 3 national champions as true freshmen. Can't forget Cody Merrill as a 7 seed, making it all the way to the national final as well. Just a tremendous run from David Taylor and company. And before we get to the individual national champions, Colby, just kind of setting the stage here. All true freshmen claimed titles at 141, 157, and 133. It was just the third time a team has recorded multiple freshman champions since 1947. The title winners were the biggest contributors to OSU's team total of 131 points, which marked the third highest score at the event in program history, the second highest runner-up score in NCAA tournament history, and a higher score than 12 of the 25 team champions since the NCAA began using the current placement point values back in 2001. David Taylor said, "We had an awesome tournament. It's not something you're typically proud of, getting second place, but it's a stepping stone. You think the progress we've made with a lot of young guys in the lineup, so it's a pretty awesome season. Super proud of the guys." So really, for a runner-up finish, Colby, the weekend went about as great as it could have. It was about as perfect of a weekend as you could expect from this team, playing so many or starting so many freshmen in the national tournament. Before we get to the individuals, just perfect weekend, was it not? I mean, obviously you would have liked Merrill to win a national championship, but I think we all kind of expected that result. But to get 3 individuals, it was about as perfect of a weekend as you could have expected.
Yeah, I mean, Merrill was the 7th seed, and he made it to the national final where he was going up against a kid, Josh Barr for Penn State. He had to withdraw with a medical injury, a hamstring. Last year, he was a national finalist. Came back this year. He had a 100% bonus point success rate on the season, and Merrill wrestled him tough. So he gave it everything he had. Sergio Vega became the first undefeated true freshman since 1947, and then Jax Forrest became the second undefeated true freshman since 1947 when he wrestled later in the night and closed out the show. Oklahoma State finished second as a team for the first time since 2016. Oklahoma State scored 131 team points. It's the most since 2005, and that's actually more points than Oklahoma State scored in 2006 when they won the team title. Oklahoma State had 3 individual champs for the first time since having 5 winners in 2005. Oklahoma State became the first program in NCAA history with 3 freshman national champs, and 8 Cowboys earned All-American status, the first time that's happened since 2017. They were within 50.5 points of Penn State, and they were 30.5 points clear of Nebraska in third. So we talked about last week, Carson, wanting Oklahoma State to come out and clearly establish themselves as like, okay, Penn State, you still got your dynasty going, and that's all fun. Good for you. We're coming. That was the message that needed to be sent this weekend in Cleveland, and the message was signed, sealed, delivered to Cale Sanderson and the boys at Penn State.
Yeah, let's start there. I think the message was sent loud and clear because our boy Cale Sanderson was very much, despite winning a national championship, I think he could kind of sense that all of the talk was about Oklahoma State and their freshmen, and the fact that even though they steamrolled their way to another national championship, that no one really cared to talk about that. No one really was talking about Penn State. And so Cale Sanderson used his post-tournament press conference to deliver a message. I think one of the Penn State beat writers was tweeting about this. While he didn't mention any names, it was directed toward Oklahoma State. Cale Sanderson did not like the way a high schooler was pulled from the middle of his senior season in high school and inserted into a college lineup. He's also unhappy with the Cowboys actively recruiting his past and current players, being Zach Ryder, Fagundo, Steen, etc. Sanderson is also displeased that David Taylor did not mention Penn State once during the tournament, while the likes of Tom Ryan and Mark Manning praised them beforehand and congratulated them afterwards. Cale turns 47 in June. He's in charge of the only dynasty in the sport. It is unprecedented. David Taylor turns 36 in December. He is in charge of the school with the most national championships in the history of the sport. This is exactly what, and he goes on to say, this is kind of the rivalry that this sport needs. And I think Sanderson also said something along the lines of, we follow the rules and not everyone else does, which was met with a ton of replies on Twitter about the fact that I don't follow this as close, Colby, but apparently there was some sort of steroid allegations launched at Penn State. There's a host of other things that Cale Sanderson, not exactly living in a brick house, more of a glass house. But I think that just kind of says it all, doesn't it, Colby? To your point, OSU's coming. And I think Sanderson feels it for the way that he responded in postgame, despite winning a national championship.
Yeah, I think so too. The one that was most hilarious to me was the idea that Jax Forrest was pulled from his senior year of high school and forced to go wrestle for Oklahoma State. He wanted to stay, but Oklahoma State just came and kidnapped him and threw him in the back of a van and took him to Stillwater and made him wrestle. Dude, Jax Forrest, he's 18 years old. You get to make your own decisions. He decided he wanted to forgo his final semester of high school and go wrestle at Oklahoma State. He thought he could win a national championship. That's what he thought, and that's what he did. And I just David Taylor didn't talk about Penn State. What is David Taylor? What should he say? Hey, Penn State won again. Cool, good for them. I think David Taylor was pretty fired up about what his guys were doing. I don't know. I thought it was pretty weird the way Kel Sanderson, Carson, to me, it came off as very annoyed that he once again had the best team in the country. Once again, just pretty much rolled to a national championship, 50.5 point margin of victory. And yet his team was not the talk of the town. His team was not the talk of the nation. None of his wrestlers were the most popular wrestlers in the building. That was all Oklahoma State. And the reality is Penn State's been doing this for so long. They've been a dynasty for so long that people are kind of bored with Penn State. And Oklahoma State is a fun new thing with a fun new coach and a bunch of fun new wrestlers. And yeah, that's the story. You're still number one. You still get to take the trophy home, but the headlines were about Oklahoma State because people like the fun new thing, and Oklahoma State is the fun new thing. It's why this year, Carson, most of the people listening to this podcast are also probably Thunder fans. The Thunder have been dominating for a few years. The Spurs are the fun new thing, which is why every time they go on a run, all the NBA podcasts and Inside the NBA and these guys, they all just want to talk about the Spurs for weeks on end because they're the fun new thing. It's part of it. But you're the dynasty. You still won. Take your trophy and go home. What are you so mad about? You still have your dynasty. We're coming, but we haven't taken the throne yet. We haven't taken the crown. So enjoy your trophy. Go home. Have fun. Celebrate.
Well, I think Sanderson was a little frustrated because Penn State didn't have the cleanest of runouts to the national championship. They had some guys falter that they really expected to win national championships, which we'll get to. So I think he was frustrated about how the way the tournament played out. A little frustrated that Oklahoma State was the first thing everyone was talking about this weekend. But all in all, Penn State's still the dominant team. They win the national championship. So yeah, I'm with you. I think it reeked a little of little annoyed was what Cale Sanderson was. But OSU does have some ground to make up in order to get there. But all in all, David Taylor through 2 years, Colby, 14 All-Americans, 7 finalists, 2 runner-ups, and 5 individual national champions in 2 years. So I only expect that number to even increase as he gets more and more of his own guys in here. And just on the Penn State thing, I think you could argue that Penn State was doing the NIL before NIL. They're clearly number one still in NIL, and OSU's number 2. So it's not like it's a rags to riches story for Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's invested. They were able to flip guys like Landon Robidieu and Sergio Vega, who we're about to get to. But David Taylor, think about this, Colby. In 2024, so just 2 years ago, Oklahoma State finished 10th in the NCAAs. They were more than 100. They were 121 points behind Penn State in 2024. So the job that David Taylor, the investment that Chad Weiberg and company have made has really paid off dividends. And let's get to the individual national champions. Let's just start in order the way they went, Colby. Sergio Vega going up against the number 1 seed, Jesse Mendez. There, I got my ticker there. I tell you what, Colby, scramble with Sergio Vega at your own peril. This dude is so slippery. You look at Sergio Vega, Colby, and it's really amazing. He's not, I know he's on a lighter weight, 141, but he doesn't look like he has very many muscles to him. He's just that prototypical kind of squirmy, slippery wrestler. And Mendez found out the hard way because once they got in that scramble, he ends up on his back, ends up getting the takedown to win it. And just, again, what can you say? The word perfect almost doesn't do his season justice. I mean, Sergio Vega didn't give up a takedown the entire year. He finishes, 23-0, and beats Mendez in the national championship to win it all. I mean, just what can you say? His dad was going nuts on the sideline. Just a perfect ending to a perfect season. And really, all the wrestling heads gave Sergio Vega very little chance. If you weren't wearing orange, very few people were giving him a chance to win this, Colby, and he pulled it off. Pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was the first match of the night, and I thought it really set the tone that, like, okay, the number next to your name, the seed, that doesn't matter. Go do what you're going to do. And Oklahoma State wrestled really confident last night, and Vega started that off. His season was incredible. Jesse Mendez had not lost since March 8th of 2025, so a little bit more than a year, about 54 weeks since Mendez had last lost. He hadn't lost at the NCAAs since March 16th, 2023, so about 3 calendar years. And also, Sergio Vega beat last year's 141-pound runner-up 3 times this year, including in the national semifinals. And I liked what he had to say afterward. He was like, I kept asking myself, like, is there any reason I can't do this? Why not me? Can I think of a single reason why I can't be the guy to go out and do this as a freshman? He's like, I couldn't come up with a reason. So I just went out and did it. And, like, these kids are dogs, Carson, like all of them, the way they talked afterward. I mean, Vega mentioned it. Forrest mentioned it. They talked about how, we wanted to win it as a team. We didn't get there this year, but we're going to get there. Forrest talked about we're all going for 4. Like, these guys are my best friends. We're all just – it was amazing. If Jax Forrest had not come on the scene and did what he did a couple of months, then –
Oh, I think we lost Colby. But, no, I mean, I would completely agree with it. This really is like a changing of the guard. Like, not only do you have a new coach, but David Taylor really put a stamp on things with his new freshman class, essentially. And really, and I think in the first 3 months on the job, Colby, as we bring you back in David Taylor's first 3 months, he flipped Robideau and Vega within his first 3 months on the job. So not only did they hire David Taylor, but he hit the ground running, and he brings in 2 guys who won individual national championships their first try, their first attempt at it. Colby, I think we have you back now, but you were kind of making the point of just the overhaul that they've made with these freshmen.
Yeah, just the way they spoke after the match and talking about let's go for 4 and all this stuff. And if Jax had not come on the scene these last couple of months and been doing what he was doing, and like what he was doing was so insane because of all the tech falls and just how dominant he was beating people. But Sergio Vega would have been like the storyline, one of the storylines in college wrestling had Jax Forrest not come on and just started steamrolling everybody, because what Sergio Vega did this season was incredible. And the stat that they talked about all night last night on the broadcast and that I brought up earlier, first undefeated true freshman since 1947, and then Jax became the second about 3 hours later. It's just and Jax said after the match, like Robideau, Vega, those guys, Merrill, like those are my best friends. And this group feels tight, and they feel like they are very driven to take down Penn State and become the team that wins the national title. And David Taylor's got recruits coming in. So I think this rivalry is going to be fantastic for college wrestling. And Vega and Robideau and Merrill and Forrest are going to be a very big part of that.
And by the way, Jax Forrest is 19 years old. It's not like he's 17 and was plucked from high school. Like, he's 19.
Oh, he's 19?
Sanderson.
Oh, I thought he was 18. Okay.
He's 19 years old. So, like, I had someone brought that up previously when I was remarking, like, this was how remarkable it was. A kid who should be going to prom was at OSU, and someone pointed out he's 19. He was a little older for a high school kid, but the point remains. The guy should be going to senior prom. But Vega and Forrest, who finished 24-0 and 18-0 respectively, become the first true freshmen, as you mentioned, since 1947. Only 4 others have accomplished that feat, and all of them occurred in 1947, when many true freshmen were already in their 20s, competing after returning from World War II. so that puts in perspective there of just what this feat was. And again, Vega beating Mendez, a 2-time national champ, a guy who was a Hodge Trophy contender. He ran the gauntlet. And again, I think Vega and Forrest make history, and I wanted to talk about Forrest because his national championship match was kind of what I expected more from him in this tournament. He teched everyone getting to the final, including the Virginia Tech kid Seidel, who I thought was probably his stiffest competition coming in. And, of course, he had a tougher match in the national championship. And I kind of thought what he experienced in the national title match, I was curious to get your thoughts on this too, Colby. And, again, if you have questions, filter these in. I expected more upperclassmen guys to just play straight-up defense and try to get Jax into the third period in a one-point style match. And, look, Jax ends up winning pretty comfortably, but for him, that was a close match. I kind of expected to see more of that, and I think it's a credit to Jax for getting those guys in those wild scrambles throughout to where he was able to score a bunch of points. But I thought he showed a lot of patience in this match. He knew what was happening. He knew this guy was playing all defense, doing a lot of stalling, even from bottom. He was getting warnings. And so I thought it really showed not only is Jax this superior talent and this guy just a one-of-one freak, but he showed a lot of moxie and surely I thought showed his international experience. Again, he's a world champion at under 23 level. So I thought Jax showed a lot of experience as well as his just overall talent in winning a national championship.
Yeah, and I loved what he said after the match. He said, look, I'm a crazy wrestler. I like to do a lot of crazy stuff whenever I'm out there, but sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes you're going against a guy where you got to be technical and you got to be patient. You got to wait for the right moment. And I thought it was really impressive for him to be so young and this be his first attempt at a national championship, and to recognize that early in the match that this wasn't going to be a match that he could go out and win 14-3. When he beat Seidel 14-3 in the semis, I was like, oh, okay. This is the guy that a month ago he beat 10-9 and took him down 3 times, and he just waxed him in the semis. I'm like, okay, Jax he's wrestling on a different level right now. But the first period of that final match, it was a little tense, I would say, and even parts of that second period, it's like, okay, this guy's going to make him really earn it. And they were talking about Divino, how he hasn't been taken down once all year, same as Vega. And I'm like, this is tough. And I thought the stage was kind of set for a heartbreaking finish to the night for Oklahoma State, because it wasn't the normal just tornado type of match that we've seen from Jax all season. But he had the patience, he had the composure, and Divino, he gave him an inch. And you give Forrest an inch, he takes a mile, and he took it, man. And he put him on his back, and it was so good. Like you said, the stall warnings, Divino was doing everything he could, I think, to get that match to sudden death at 1-1. I think he wanted to each have one escape point and get to sudden death, and then let's just figure out if I can get a reversal or something like that. And Jax played it exactly right. The composure, for such a young kid in that big of a moment for the first time was really incredible for him to tone down what he called the crazy wrestler in him there down the stretch.
And what makes Jax really special, I thought too, was once he had him down, there was 0% chance he was getting up, Divino. He pretty much rode him out throughout. And he has so many moves when he's on top and has the guy, on his stomach. The only thing that was going to happen was him pinning the guy. Him getting out of that wasn't happening. The only other thing that could happen was more points for Jax. And that's one thing that really makes him special is he has a real arsenal once he has a guy down to really score more. And that's how he techs a lot of guys. And I thought one thing that just doesn't make sense about Jax is, much like Vega's, they're both just kind of wiry, Gumby-like in stature. And they're just kind of these slippery, kind of free-flowing guys that they're not physically imposing, but man, they just have a plethora of moves. And again, Vega, Mendez got in on him on one of his legs, and he was able to reverse him for the win. And it was really kind of one of those things where you're waiting for many, many seconds. Was that you that texted me this? One of my friends texted me just wrestling has those special moments where you're waiting and waiting and waiting for that call, and Vega finally got it. So two very different styles of wins, with Forrest kind of clinching it a little early and Vega having to do it in extra time. But just their stature and the way they go about things is kind of similar. Just they want to be in scrambles because more often than not they're going to end up on top.
Yeah, that was me. I've grown to love the 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds when you know that your guy has it right at the end, like Vega and sudden death there at the end, sudden victory, whatever they want to call it. Like, we all knew he's got him. He's got him. He's dead to rights. And they're on the broadcast. They're like, as soon as he breaks that grip, and like that just 5, 6 seconds of anticipation where everybody kind of rises and you're on the edge of your seat and you're just waiting for the whistle and the sign from the ref. And then you get it. It's like, yeah! And then, oh man, it's an elite elite moment in wrestling whenever you get one of those. And Vega gave us one of those yesterday. And like you said, neither one of these guys is just like jacked. That they're not built like trees, like redwoods, anything like that. The functional strength is crazy apparent that they can do what they need to do, but the way they maneuver and contort their bodies, the hips on Vega throughout his match to avoid getting taken down by Mendez, it's like they are so technically sound and just so slippery in terms of trying to get them to the ground. It's incredible to watch. And Divino was so scared to get taken down, I thought, throughout parts of that match. I was watching with my wife, and he got that stall warning whenever he was on bottom, and she's like, what's he getting a stall warning for? Like, he can't move. The other guy's on top of him. And I'm like, he's getting a stall warning because he's just laying there resting. He's not trying to move because he's worried that he's going to open himself up to a takedown or a near fall or a pin. Like, he's worried he's going to open himself up, so he's just kind of laying there waiting, trying to figure something out. Like, that's why he's getting a stall call when he's on the bottom, and it's the Jax Forrest effect.
Yeah, I texted my dad after Forrest won. I said that was about as close as a Jax Forrest match can get, besides the one there in Blacksburg with Seidel. That Seidel actually took him down more than he did. But my dad said Divino didn't want any part of trying to take down Jax. He knew if Jax got a hold of him, he was in trouble. I thought that's a good way to put it. My dad said, I was hoping to win one title, but we won 3. How awesome. I thought that was kind of a good encapsulation of that. And Jax contributed more. No Cowboy contributed more than Forrest's 2016 points, which broke Pat Smith's 1990 program freshman record of 25 points. Again, that's applying the current scoring model. So, yeah, I want to poll the audience here that's watching live on YouTube. Who was getting a little worried when the guy kept smacking Jax in the face and he kept fidgeting with his headgear? Jax could not get his headgear to situate right. And I'm like, oh, my God, this is going terribly. He's going to be fiddling with his headgear. And there was one point right when they blew the whistle, I think it was the end of the first, maybe the second, where the guy had a quick little window to kind of grab his legs real quick. I was like, I just was on pins and needles throughout. Who was getting concerned when Jax kept fidgeting with his damn headgear? Because I was. I was losing my mind with the headgear. In the first period, it was especially insane how loose his headgear was flying around his head, and he kept having to reach up and adjust it. And I kept thinking, Divino's going to see this, and at some point, he's just going to attack like a viper whenever Jax is fidgeting with his headgear, and Jax is going to end up losing out on a national championship because his headgear's too loose. I'm like, what happened here? Did the hair dye add a little extra thickness, and now he can't get his headgear on tight enough? It was a little nervy for a while with Jax. But by the way, Carson, we had a question I want to attribute it here. Brian Metcalf says, do any of the freshmen have a chance at the Hodge? I'm leaning no, but not a 0% chance. I looked it up on WrestleStat. They've got a Hodge watch, and this list compiles 4 factors: wrestler rating, dual strength, opponent strength, and win percentage, and it ranks them. So the top 3 wrestlers in this Hodge watch are all Penn State guys: Mitchell Messenbrink, Levi Haynes, and Josh Barr. And then at number 4 on that list is Sergio Vega, and at number 5 on that list is Jax Forrest. So it's probably going to be one of those guys from Penn State. It's probably going to be Messenbrink, but Vega and Forrest are both in the top 5 of this list that I'm looking at. Yeah, I mean, I think Messenbrink should win it. I mean, he teched the guy in the final. He's put together, sometimes it's a career achievement award too, but take out Messenbrink rolling through everyone previously to just destroy a guy. And again, at 165 has produced some of the better wrestlers of the last decade. You think of Kyle Dake, guys like that. I would have no issue giving it to Messenbrink, just the way he steamrolled our old friend Caliendo, who shushed the Gallagher-Iba faithful there in the final home duel. But no, I think I'd probably rank Vega slightly ahead of Forrest for his body of work. Again, not a single takedown given up. 23-0, beat a Hodge contender in his match as well. Did Vega? Certainly would probably give him the nod over Forrest, but Forrest again had scored the most points, so you could go either way with that. But I would expect Messenbrink to win the Hodge. But which leads us to our old friend Robideau, Landon Robideau, again getting his revenge. He avenged his only 2 losses on the season, going through the number 1 seed, PJ Duke from Penn State, and again the number 2 seed, the kid from Nebraska there in the final. But it was not without controversy. So let's go back to the semifinal, and I want to pull this up on screen. You should be able to see this, Colby. All the Penn State fans were in their feels after this match. I had so many people, I tweeted, look, was it a controversial call? Yes, and I'll go over the call in a second. But did it have anything to do, once that call occurs, we're still wrestling. Robideau's down. He's in the down position and reverses him. You cannot let that happen. I thought Robideau took PJ Duke to deep, he took him to the deep end of the deep pool and drowned him because Robideau was the fresher wrestler, and I think that ultimately is the reason he won this match. So to set the stage, Colby, they were tied. PJ Duke gets him in this cradle position, but as you can see from the photo you're watching on YouTube, Robideau never gives his grasp of his hips. And I saved this tweet from someone who knows wrestling way better than I do. Again, I don't pretend I'm some sort of expert. I have watched a lot of wrestling in my life. We lost Colby, but he's back now. So this is from Holdy Lines on Twitter. I don't know how much Holdy knows, but to me he sounds pretty smart. He said, hearing a lot of noise about Robideau versus the Duke call. By NCAA rule, a takedown requires clear control, not just a locked cradle or back exposure. Control means the opponent is restrained and no longer improving position. In that sequence, control was never established beyond reaction time. In sudden victory, the first confirmed control ends it. The overturn was correct. I would agree with Holdy Lines, who actually did a hashtag #GoPoke, so maybe he's a little biased there. But that's how I read it. Look, was the whistle early? Yes. I think everyone wearing orange would agree the whistle was early to call the takedown. That's why it was overturned. Could Duke have locked it in eventually? Would he have? I guess we'll never know. But the fact is, Colby, that was not a takedown. He still has not complete control. I mean, how many times there was a point earlier in the match where I thought Robideau had control that he didn't quite have it. You know, that's part of the sport, right? So look, there was controversy here, but again, I have no issue with Robideau getting the win here because again, he reversed the dude from the down position from bottom. And I think ultimately, one last note here, Colby, I did say this as well. I became a PJ Duke fan. Do you know why? Because he showed way more class and way more dignity than a lot of the Penn State fans who were chirping afterwards. Let me see if I have it here. Yeah. Basically, PJ Duke said he deserved the win. Did Robideau? I needed more offense. Basically said he thoroughly deserved the win and showed a lot of class. I'm a big PJ Duke fan after that.
Yeah, he was great. I understand fans will be fans. I don't know the wrestling rule book cover to cover. This isn't golf. If this was golf, I would tell you exactly what the rule is, exactly how it was applied. What I do know is that I watched a lot of wrestling over the last 3 days, and the broadcast thought they got it right on just about every single review for 3 days. Like the absolute experts of the sport were watching, they were predicting what was going to happen, and then that thing would happen. And there's lots of challenges. There's lots of bricks thrown in collegiate wrestling. And, yeah, they got it right the majority of the time. I have no reason to believe that they got this one wrong. You talked about the control and everything that's happening there. I'm defaulting to the experts here that have devoted their lives to understanding the wrestling rule book, that they got this right. Now, live, was that a quick whistle? Probably. And did that work in Robideau's favor? Probably. But, you know, it is what it is. I think that they got the call right on the takedown based on everything I've read, everything I heard on the broadcast, everything I've seen since. I think they got that one right. I think they got the calls right in his championship match against Taylor with the 2-point near fall. Definitely with the stall. Nebraska's coach was freaking out about the stall. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's running into the fifth row until Robideau grabs him. Like, what are we talking about here? Of course he's stalling. So, yeah, I thought they got him right, and they benefited Robideau, and he made the most of it, and now he's a national champion.
It's a great point by you because they reviewed that for a very, very long time. You're talking still frame, slow-mo, all of the above. And you're right. The experts watch that as slow as you can. And again, I think the screenshots and the still photos do not do wrestling a whole lot of justice for me at all, because those are like less than a split second in some cases where they slow it down to. But nonetheless, they reviewed it in slow-mo, still, whatever you want, and still deemed that it was not a takedown. So I think Penn State's anger was more so, if they were channeling it correctly, They were more upset at how quick the whistle was because in their mind, he had a cradle locked in. It was only a matter of time. So if you want to take issue with that, fine. That you're well within your rights that it was a quick whistle. But don't say that Duke had already won it because he had not at that point. He had not scored the takedown to win it at that point. So when people came at me saying the ref had nothing to do with Robideau reversing him from, again, bottom position, that's just an egregious error from Duke. And that's an unbelievable scoring situation from Landon to pull that off in that moment after you've already wrestled 3 full periods, as you're already in overtime. Again, Robideau was the fresher wrestler. He took Duke to deep water and drowned him and earned the win. So if you want to be upset that there was a quick whistle, yes. But don't sit here and say Duke had already won it and that shouldn't even have happened, because that's not the case. That didn't happen. So that's the issue I took with it.
Yeah, 100%. And then I thought he came in and, Antrell Taylor got the better of him earlier this year in the national duels. And he had some quotes afterward. I wasn't familiar with the controversy, but he said he thought Taylor was a little bit disrespectful earlier in the season and kind of was in the face of some of his coaches and stuff, and that he had some extra motivation. So I'm not up to speed on the disrespect and whatever extra might have been happening there with Antrell Taylor. But I thought Robideau was clearly the aggressor in that match. I thought he was clearly better on the mat in the final match against Antrell Taylor. The takedown that was then ruled a near fall, another one that the broadcast nailed. They're watching it and they're like, this is going to end up being a good challenge for Nebraska because it's going to bring it from 3 down to 2, which is exactly what happened. And at that point, Robideau mostly just needed to hold serve, and he did more than hold serve. That stall call that Antrell Taylor got, he got that stall call because Robideau had him, not in the center of the ring, but close enough to the center of the ring. And Antrell Taylor on one leg starts hopping toward the scorer's table, trying to get out of the circle. And finally, whenever he gets over there, they get down on the ground. And you can see Taylor puts, I think it was his left arm down and drags himself out of the circle. And then his coach wants to act like it shouldn't have been a stall call. I'm like, I understand if this is just a Hail Mary challenge. I understand you're seeing through Nebraska colored goggles, but as that was being reviewed, never for one single second did I think that was being overturned, because it was just the most obvious stall I thought of the entire tournament. The dude was trying hard to get out of the circle.
Yeah, and one thing I think that was really smart, again, Taylor is the defending champion, 3-time All-American, I believe is what I read. And I thought what Robideau did very smartly was he didn't just put on the brakes, where I've seen a lot of guys when they get up in a national title situation where they put on the brakes and they start backing up and doing those things. And I thought anytime Robideau was getting pushed toward the edge, he did an unbelievable job of either locking up and turning to where he was on the inside of the circle. I thought he did a really good job of not just putting it in park. I thought he did a good job of not stalling, but doing enough to avoid any stalling warnings and being offensive enough that I think David Taylor has said publicly, we got to keep on the offensive. And I thought he did an awesome job of not just trying to coast that one home, because that's where guys get in trouble. That's where you see guys lose it in the last few seconds. So I thought, to your point, didn't get close to getting hit with a stalling, and I thought really controlled things, really did an unbelievable job of beating the number 1 and number 2 ranked guy and the defending champion in the final, and beating them, I thought, fair and square and soundly. Look, Penn State can cry all they want about early whistle, but again, Robideau to me early in the season, Colby, was electric. I kept tweeting that clip of The Rock saying the most electrifying man in sports entertainment, because this kid just scored a ton of points to start out the year, really caught my eye. And again, what an unbelievable job from David Taylor to pull this kid straight out of the state of Minnesota. He was committed to Minnesota. You can hear that Minnesota twang to him when he gets interviewed after the match, and just adding this guy alongside Vega and Forrest to have 3 true freshmen national champions their first time out. Really unbelievable to pull that off, and really unbelievable job from Landon to peak early, or peak at the right time toward in the national duels. So, which kind of leads to our next point here. Just year 3 of David Taylor. Again, year 2 is in the books. We all know where this is kind of trending toward, but just unbelievable job, Colby. What do you expect from David Taylor? Again, you mentioned Lockett. Kind of disappointing from him. I think Lockett, watching his fellow freshmen in this, can really take a lot. I thought he was going to kind of learn his lesson coming out of that Iowa duel where he didn't put up much offense, kind of stayed on his knees most of the match, and it really cost him again in the national tournament, Colby, where just not enough offense from him. But I think him watching his fellow freshmen do what they did, certainly going to be inspiring for him, and certainly I think he is a freshman. A lot to learn going into year 3 of David Taylor for Lockett as well.
Yeah, and that's okay. I saw a lot of chatter online about D. Lockett and people really frustrated not getting into his offense as early and stuff. And I think the accomplishments of the other freshmen have got people frustrated with D. Lockett. Like, it's okay for a freshman to not be a finished product and to need to learn some things and to need to understand some things about getting into his offense earlier and things like that, wrestling more aggressive, looking to score, and not being so defensive all the time. He'll get better. The talent is there. That obviously didn't pan out. Ended up being Robideau of the guys who were not in the top 2 seeds. But D. Lockett's going to be fine. As far as the year 3 outlook for David Taylor, you retweeted Gift Tannen on Twitter, said 2 years ago on this night, I wasn't sure what, if any, road existed to getting back, and tonight 3 freshman national champions. And the quote tweet was in response to Oklahoma State Cowboy Wrestling, tweeting out the final scoreboard from the 2024 national championships. Penn State was 100 points clear of Cornell in second. Oklahoma State finished behind Penn State, Cornell, Michigan, Iowa State, Iowa, Arizona State, Virginia Tech, Ohio State, and Nebraska. Oklahoma State finished 10th 2 years ago in 2024. The rise has been really fast for David Taylor and these guys that he's brought in. He's got great recruiting classes coming down the pipeline. I think the expectation for next year is that you go into the season a clear number 2 in the country. Like, there is no doubt. There are no Nebraska, Ohio State, Iowa fans talking about, you know, who's the second best team in the country behind Penn State. You go into the season as a clear number 2, and you want to get one step closer to Penn State next year. You want Kel Sanderson to continue feeling you even more. You want him taking to more microphones, frustrated that his team isn't getting talked about as much because the boys at Stillwater are just too much fun. And with the freshman class coming back and all the hype that these guys already have, there's no reason to think that they won't continue to build on the success that they had this season.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that I think David Taylor now, one of my biggest takeaways, that's one thing that David Taylor has proven now, that he is not just a relatable young coach that can recruit. He can also flat out coach. That is one of my biggest takeaways, because I thought Matt Scouts on Twitter, I want to give them credit. They were a great follow throughout the NCAA tournament. They tweeted, David Taylor and company have done a really fantastic job, from getting top recruits to managing them well to development, which is already evident, to peaking. Wrestled really well above their seed throughout the whole roster. I'm proud of him and happy Oklahoma State is so back. And I think that's the one thing, Colby, is not only can David Taylor be kind of young and energetic and do all the glitz and glam they have now in Gallagher-Iba Arena, the spectacle that's become. You got Jax Forrest coming out to Funky Town, which I finally learned why he comes out to Funky Town. He said it's his parents' ideas, because he said, I'm kind of a weird wrestler. I like to wrestle wild and get in these wild kind of funky scrambles. And he goes, I had no idea what I should walk out to, and they told me I had to pick a song. And so that's how Funky Town came about. So David Taylor's much more than just that. The glitz and glam, very relatable, being so young. He can also flat out coach these guys, teach them techniques, teach them how to peak at the right time of the season. That, to me, Colby, is a great sign moving forward, because it's one thing to have a bunch of talented kids, to pull a Sergio Vega from Cornell, who was committed there, to pull Robideau, who was committed to Minnesota, to get Jax Forrest back in the fold at Oklahoma State. It's quite another to coach them in the wrestling room every day, get Cody Merrill to a national final as the 7 seed. That, to me, might be the biggest feather in David Taylor's cap besides the national champions, was getting Cody Merrill as far as he did. That, to me, is a huge statement from David Taylor this year.
Yeah, if you're sitting there watching those matches last night, you can't come away thinking anything other than, wow, these kids are really well coached. Like, these guys are really well coached. The way Vega just plotted his way through that match, and then whenever he got his opening, he just needed one. He took it, and that was it. The way Jax was able to slow himself down, not get out over his skis and leave himself exposed against the other best wrestler in the country at his weight class, like, that was incredible. Robideau being able to do what he did, the self-belief to beat the only guys that had beaten him in his class, it was just Yeah, and again, Merrill didn't win, but he battled against Josh Barr, who, like I said, had a 100% success rate throughout the season of bonus points. He was trying to become the first wrestler, I think they said on the broadcast, in NCAA history to finish the season with a 100% bonus rate, and he didn't get that because Cody Merrill didn't let him have it. He didn't win the match, but he competed really hard against the best kid in the country. So, yeah, you watched those matches last night. The only takeaway can be that these guys are incredibly well coached.
And great game planning, to your point about limiting the bonus points. They clearly had a game plan. How about the game plan of Wyatt Hendrickson beating Gable Stevenson in a national final? Who thought that game plan even existed, much less pulling it off? Like, this guy can game plan. Because when you get to the national finals, the margins are about this thin. They are so thin. Once you get number one versus number two, you get guys that haven't lost all year. These guys, the margins are so thin. And so, again, credit to David Taylor. And can we give it up to Chad Weiberg? I keep seeing people like bringing up this guy's name on Twitter about whether it's the baseball program or Steve Lutz or whomever. I think y'all need to pipe down about Chad Weiberg. Do not keep Chad Weiberg's name out your mouth, to quote Will Smith. Because, my God, can this guy athletic direct a university? I mean, what a genius hire. We all just kind of sat there in the immediate aftermath of finding out John Smith was retiring. We all just kind of assumed it'd be Coleman Scott because he was already on staff and was a great wrestler at Oklahoma State. Chad Weiberg's got 10-20 vision. You all with your 20-20, he's got 10-20. And he saw this grand slam sitting there that was David Taylor, who, again, if he actually wins to get into the Olympics, we might not even be talking about David Taylor, which is kind of one of those sliding doors moments. But, again, Chad Weiberg is the dude. And what a genius hire from him. We'll see how football plays out, and we'll see how Steve Lutz plays out next year as well. But you got to give Chad a ton of credit for this hire.
Yeah, no doubt about it. This is shout out to the Chads, Weiberg and Richardson. This was a team effort by the Chads to get this to happen, and Weiberg pulled it together. It's just, he's been unbelievable. I know the basketball program hasn't popped yet. Let's give it another year. The recruiting class is strong. Baseball, I understand people are frustrated. They're going to take 2 out of 3 from Baylor this weekend. If you want to zoom into the micro on something that you're unhappy with and nitpick at Chad Weiberg, okay, whatever. But look what's happening with the wrestling program right now, and look what's happening with the football program right now. Like, he's gotten some things seriously right. Look at the patience that he showed with Allen Bratton, and they go out and win a national championship last year with a bunch of freshmen. It's just, he has pulled the right strings as athletic director. David Taylor's awesome. The way he's embraced the community, the way he's embraced Cowboy culture, like it feels like he's been in Stillwater forever. We always talk about having Cowboy guys at the helm and going out and hiring alums and all this stuff because they understand what it means to be in Stillwater and the Cowboy culture. Like, David Taylor's been here 2 years, and it just very much feels like he gets it. So, yeah, he's awesome. Chad Weiberg's awesome for making it happen. I can't remember a time that I've ever been as fired up for wrestling as I am right now.
Yep, no, I would agree. And again, we had a comment from CE4940, says, love DT, but Penn State returns almost their entire lineup, 9 of 10, I think. It will still be tough to beat them next year. And that is true. But 7 of Oklahoma State's All-Americans and all 4 finalists are coming back for Oklahoma State. They're adding 4 top 12 recruits to the lineup next year, and will likely dip into the portal and add 1 or 2 there with some weights that may be more questionable on the roster. So OSU's bringing a lot back too. And again, I totally agree. I don't think anyone really expects Oklahoma State to dethrone Penn State next year, but they gave them a little push this year, and they can give them a big push next year. And then maybe the year following is when they can finally dethrone Penn State. We'll have to see, because again, the margins are thin. The NCAA season's very long. The tournament itself is very long. I think Jax Forrest will have more matches like we saw in the final moving forward, as will the rest of the guys, where you have to squeak one out here and there. But again, job well done from OSU Wrestling. You can say this safely. The sleeping giant is alive and very much awake. That's one thing we've learned in year 2 in the David Taylor experience. Quickly, let's get to some basketball talk here. And again, start sending in your questions now. We'll get to those at the end of the show as well. Shout out to J.C. Hoyt and company. Our man Parsifala, his wife, apparently was the one who designed this awesome fit from J.C. Hoyt, well-dressed, and they did get a win in the NCAA tournament. Shout out to J.C. Hoyt and the Cowgirls. I was trying to pull up their next game. Do you have that in front of you, Colby? I don't have that right in front of me here.
It'll be 9 p.m. Monday against UCLA.
Okay, UCLA.
One seed UCLA. They toppled Princeton 82-68. First tournament win under J.C. Hoyt. So it's a big step. I don't think any of us think that they're going to get past UCLA on Monday night, but getting the first one under your belt, that's a big step. You take baby steps in building a program, and winning an 8-9 game and winning it handily. Travel for both of these schools, having to go out, I think it was in Sacramento. This was a really good win for J.C. Hoyt and the women's basketball program. After a good season, but I think kind of like the men, much to a lesser extent, obviously they just won a tournament game. But I think early in the season, we thought that this could maybe be a special kind of season. And it doesn't, they didn't end up on the 4-5 line or anything like that. They ended up on the 8-9 line. You got to face the 1 seed in the next round. I still wonder how that might have been different if the refs had not, altered that game against Kansas State. You could still lose that game in overtime. You never know. But maybe that gets them on the 7 line instead of the 8-9 line. And then you don't have to deal with the 1 seed. But yeah, they'll face UCLA Monday night at 9 o'clock. So as you're calling it tonight, turn on some Cowgirl basketball and see if they can conjure up some magic.
Yeah, they've been known to score some points. Maybe they can just outshoot them. Get hot from 3. That's the ticket for the Cowgirls for sure. In the men's side, they are in the NIT action tonight, facing Wichita, our old friends Wichita State from right up the road. That's 7:30 in Stillwater against Wichita State, the NIT. And we have a comment here from a super chat from MBM357. He says, Lutz is our guy. He's new to this level as well. It took Scott Drew 18 years to win a natty. Baseball needs improvement as well. Go Pokes. I would certainly agree. And look, I think Steve Lutz knows more about coaching basketball than Scott Drew knew for about the first 10 years of his tenure. I was one of the biggest Scott Drew haters. If you know ball, you knew Scott Drew he was the antithesis of David Taylor. He could really recruit, but couldn't coach at all his first decade at Baylor. He finally kind of fell into a zone. Someone taught him a zone defense with that great run with Epe Udoh and company. And they learned, I can just run a zone. What a concept. And that really helped him. And again, I think the first 10 years of Scott Drew's tenure, he had all these Sweet 16 appearances. I think he had only faced double-digit seeds. It was like one of the most ridiculous runs of facing double-digit seeds and upsets on his way there. But I agree with you. I think Steve Lutz needs time. He's got a good recruiting class coming in. But I think next year's a prove-it year, Colby. I think we're on the same page with that. And again, one thing we need to discuss was the suspensions. Not Brandon Roy. Roy, Victorious Miller, and someone else was suspended for their first round of the NIT game. We do not have word on what that was, but clearly they got into some trouble. But kind of a disappointing finish to the season, even though they got a win in the NIT with the suspensions that came down.
Yeah, I think most people have kind of checked out on men's basketball. I know I mostly have. The suspensions were a bummer. You hope that Victorious, Roy obviously is going to exhaust his eligibility. Victorious, I would think, would be back. Hopefully he'll be back. Won't hop in the portal. But yeah, just a bummer for the season to go the way it went, especially whenever you see, Carson, Texas A&M won a tournament game. Texas A&M went 11-7 in conference play and won a tournament game. Texas A&M came to Gallagher-Iba early in the season and got blitzed. Like they weren't even in the same caliber as Oklahoma State. And then Oklahoma State just fell apart, and they figured it out. It's a bummer the way the season played out. Still feel great about the recruiting class. I don't think Steve Lutz's leash is 18 years long. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. Very generous. Appreciate that. I don't think the leash is 18 years long, but the leash certainly isn't 2 years long either. Like he's got a little bit of time to make it work. Weiberg's going to have patience with him, let him get his recruits in and see if he can build something. Because it takes time. This program has been, mostly broken for the better part of the last decade, 15 years. So yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time to turn it over. Just be patient with him and let's see what the young kids look like next year.
I would agree, and Steve Lutz did discuss the suspensions. He hasn't decided yet. He says they're still working through the process, meaning the suspended players. They've got to meet standards and meet these standards and expectations of the program, and they're working towards that right now. No word on why they were suspended, but I got to imagine, he's handling the suspensions in-house. I got to imagine the Stairmaster, Rob Glass's old friend, might be involved on the in-house discipline there. But he said, quote, they made a mistake. And as I said, I believe in humankind. I believe that they're good people. But when I was in college, 18 to 22 years old, I made some mistakes too, guys. But the fact of the matter is, when you make a mistake, you have to be held accountable, and we are doing so. So they actually trailed at points in their win over Davidson, but they did come back and win that game. So, yeah, get a win, get another game inside Gallagher-Iba Arena. And last thing here, the golf school goodbye. We got a little golf to discuss. I picked Victor Hovland in my one and done, and he missed the cut. At least I think. At last check, he missed the cut.
Oh man, that's a tough week to take Vic. Yeah, he played terrible. 3 or 4 over. I think he was 3 over. Eckroat was 4 over. Both missed the cut. Big bummer. No Noren this week. No Ricky this week. So I was pretty dialed in on Hovland and Eckroat, and neither one of them saw the weekend. So yeah, that was not great from the Cowboys. So real quick, while we're talking golf, Brant Snedeker, old man Brant Snedeker, is tied for the lead in this golf tournament. And I have a group text with 2 of my best friends from back home. We all play golf together. They both played college golf. So we mostly just talk about golf in this group text. And one of our buddies, like, earlier this week, Monday or Tuesday, comes in the group text, and he's like, all right, I have a random golf take for you. A bunch of the guys that were good in, like, the last 20 years would not be able to play in this modern game because they just wouldn't be able to keep up physically. And like, he went through listing these guys like Jim Furyk, Steve Stricker, and then he just sent this text. He said, Brant Snedeker, ass. Brant Snedeker is tied for the lead. Brant Snedeker is tied for the lead on the back nine of the Valspar Championship, and me and our other friend are rooting so hard for him to win this tournament because anytime he has a sports take for the rest of our lives, we're just going to reply Brant Snedeker because he spent a whole day trying to convince us that some really good players from the last 25, 30 years wouldn't be able to compete today. And I'm like, dude, these guys just hit it straight as an arrow and make everything they look at. They're fine. And then Brant Snedeker, sure enough, immediately has a career resurgence. I'm rooting so hard for Brant Snedeker.
I got to admit, I walked by a TV on Thursday night, and I saw Snedeker on the leaderboard. I said, Brant Snedeker? What? I haven't heard that name in a long – I thought he was like on the Champions Tour by now. He lost his game so bad. You haven't heard his name for years. Your buddy wasn't totally wrong. He had been ass for a while, but I'm like you. I don't think he's just, playing dead at this point. But he switched to the Spider. Apparently everyone plays the Spider now. Brooks Koepka's playing the Spider putter. Even Snedeker ditched his old long-time Rossi for the Spider. Just – apparently the Spider's cheating much like you are with that anchoring you're doing on your putting.
I knew you were going to bring it up. Carson and I played golf this week, and Carson was ready to ban my putter. I rolled a couple in. It was a good day.
You made more than you missed, that's for sure.
I made a bunch. I added up after the round. It was a sub-30 putt round on a sub-70 day. So first time I've broken 70 in a while. So glad you were able to join me for that, and we'll get you over on the little wedge course, and your game will – You'll be straightened out in no time.
Man, I was rusty. Hit it okay, and then just those 50-yard chips. I don't know if I'm chipping. I don't know if I'm pitching. I know I'm hitting ground before ball. That's what I know, and that just killed me. And I had so many putts just dance over the edge, too. That would have really saved my day if I could just get a few of those putts to drop. But I'm rusty. I make no excuses. I'm just rusty. Got to shake off the rust in the short game. The driver was working pretty decently. It's just the short game just absolutely murdered me. But Cowboy Golf, are they in action this? I think they started at the beginning of last week, I want to say. I probably should have checked this before we started rolling. But did you check the Cowboy Golf schedule?
I definitely should have checked it before we started rolling because I told you I was going to check it before we started rolling, and then I totally forgot. I'm pulling it up now. They are March 30th and 31st, so Monday and Tuesday. Ooh, the Marineau Intercollegiate down in Carrollton, Texas. That one's pretty close. If I didn't have a job and a family, I'd go watch. But, yeah, Marineau Intercollegiate, and then they will have the Haskins Invitational, and that's a fun one. It's in Augusta, Georgia, the weekend before the Masters, and then I know Bratton is probably going to stick around, and maybe some of the team will stick around for a day or two at Augusta. But they've got to be in West Virginia for the Mountaineer Invitational the Monday after the Masters ends. So they won't be sticking around for too long. But yeah, they've got 3-4 tournaments coming up here in the next 5 weeks. So it'll be getting really active for the men's golf team.
Yeah, this week they finished 5th at Palma Valley as well. They finished behind LSU in Florida, and Tennessee and Georgia Tech got shared top honors. And Preston Stout finished 2 shots shy of his second straight win, finished in 3rd. So a little bit of a setback there, finishing 5th, but all in all, they're having a decent season so far. So they're going to be gearing up here pretty quickly as we kind of go head first into the rest of the spring sports as wrestling wraps up. But again, Colby, just what a year for Oklahoma State wrestling. It's safe to say the Dynasty is reborn under these 3 individual national champions, and much more coming with the talent that David Taylor's recruiting. But really enjoyed this weekend. Again, congrats to David Taylor, Landon Robidieu, Sergio Vega, and our man, the final boss, Jax Forrest. Don't call me Ken with the blonde hair. So, Colby, enjoyed it, and we'll get back with you next week. Thank you to all of our viewers. I asked for questions. Do we have any more before we get out of here? I didn't think
we read a couple earlier. Let's do a quick scroll. MBM 357 says Duke and Robideau will be a great rivalry. Yeah, it will. There's some really good rivalries brewing in college wrestling. We kind of addressed the D. Lockett stuff. MBM 357 up here was talking about Aaron Brooks, the guy who beat David Taylor back at the U.S. Olympic trials, former Penn State guy who then failed a drug test and got banned by USADA for 2 years. That was some of what you were talking about off the jump about an hour ago. But, just let's just add a little fuel to the fire.
Yeah, that rivalry's here. We can now officially call it a rivalry now that Oklahoma State's back where they belong, up near the top of the standings. And unrelated but kind of related, I didn't realize Kansas basketball had not made it out of the first weekend since they won the title in 2022. So now that now that you can actually pay guys legally, Kansas no longer has that advantage, because we all remember when they won the title in 2022, Bill Self was under severe investigation from the NCAA. We all kind of know Kansas has been paying people for a long time. I did find it interesting, Colby, that Kansas hasn't gotten out of the weekend since 2022, and I don't think that's a coincidence.
Kansas has still been good. They're good this year. They play this afternoon against St. John's to get out. But that is certainly an interesting little tidbit. Did you fill out a bracket this year?
I did. I do the Rick Rungood method, where Rick Rungood, if people aren't familiar, Rick Gaiman, he really focuses on statistics and strokes gained with golf and golf wagering. He does a bracket every year. He doesn't watch 1 minute of college basketball, but his system takes Ken Pomeroy's rankings and the percentage chance a team will win versus the amount of times people in the public brackets, which you can look up who's picking who, the amount of times they're being picked. And it weighs statistically the percentages if you have leverage in that given matchup. So that's what I did. And give or take, I pick a few teams I want to pick. I don't just copy Rick Rungood's bracket. For instance, I had Santa Clara beating Kentucky. I hated to see how that one went. But so my deal is I'm picking Purdue to upset Arizona, not because I love the Big Ten. And I love Arizona. I love the Big 12, but too many people picking Arizona. So I got Purdue. Michigan had the best percentage chance to win the national championship. I think they were 14 to 16%, with the less amount of people picking them versus a Duke, an Arizona, I think even Florida, Houston. Those teams were up there. Took Illinois because they had the best chance to come out. That bracket's kind of wide open with Houston and UConn, not UConn. I forget who the 1 seed is in that bracket. So I've got Illinois, Purdue, Michigan, and then Duke's, their percentage chances to come out of there were just too high. The leverage game didn't factor in, but I took Illinois to beat Duke for the leverage play. Very low probability, but if I want to take I'm in big pools, so I gotta place a lot of leverage there once you get to the Final Four. So I've got Michigan beating Illinois, and I've got the Big Ten haters got an all Big Ten championship game with mighty Big Blue taking it down, and I'm in good shape. Only one person has Michigan ahead of me right now, and I think if it plays out, I'll win a big pool here.
That's great. That was all very scientific. Very well done on your part. I wasn't going to fill out a bracket this year. My buddy texted me Wednesday night. He's like, hey, $20, winner take all, fill out a bracket, get in. I'm like, all right, this isn't a big pool. There's 20 of us maybe in this pool. I didn't have time to fill out a bracket. So I just, on my phone, in about 30 seconds, did the lamest thing of all time. And I just picked the favorite in every game all the way through. Did not pick one single lower seed to win a single game. I didn't have time to fill out a bracket. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this, and if I win, great. And everybody can make fun of me for just picking all the favorites. So I'm in 4th right now in the pool. I'm still doing pretty good, but yeah, I've got Duke winning it all. I was a little nervous whenever they tried to lose to Siena in the first round that I was immediately going to be done, but they pulled it out, and I'm doing okay.
It's been chalky, so your bracket's probably in good shape. It's been so very little upsets. But I'm actually a way bigger fan of Survivor. I'm still alive in my Survivor pool where you pick 2 teams to win day 1. And if you get that right, you pick 2 teams the next day. If one of your teams loses, you can buy back in, but you got to pick 4 teams, which really limits you as you get in. There's over 200 people in this Survivor pool. But I've got Iowa State today. And I need Iowa State to take care of business against Kentucky. I know their best player's hurt, but that's more reason for me to pick them. I thought Kentucky would lose in the first round. I need Iowa State to come through, and I'll be in a decent position as Survivor's playing out. But to me, Survivor is so much more fun than filling out a bracket each year. I'm also in a squares contest where it's kind of like the Super Bowl, where the last number of the final score, if the winner. Like I have 9. Interestingly enough, I have 9 and 3. If the winner has 9 at the back end of their final score, and 3, and my dad's inversed. My dad's in the pool and the squares pool. He's got 3 and 9, and we've both hit so far. So I've hit twice. He's hit once. So I prefer squares and Survivor.
It's been a long time since I've been in a squares pool. Squares are fun though. It's just because it's random, it's chaos. It's something totally unrelated to who actually wins the game to cheer for at the end. Just random free throw nonsense that you're cheering for or against. So yeah, squares can make it fun.
Well, think how many games are played. You have a vested interest in the final minute of every game. So I don't have to watch most of the games. I just tune in for the last, minute, 30 seconds, kind of see where they're at. Like, oh, I have a chance here. And I've had a few close calls along the way too. So it makes every game, even if you're not watching, at least interesting, which I like. So thank you, J-Rod. He said Iowa State's currently up 5. We'll knock on wood there. Come on, Cyclones. Don't do me wrong. But again, Colby, this was fun. Appreciate everyone tuning in live on the show. And Colby, really enjoyed wrestling season. Thanks for being with me. And we'll talk again next week.
Yeah, wrestling season was a blast. They picked a good time to pop with some of the other sports down pretty much across the board. Wrestling's like, hey, Oklahoma State fans, you need something to get fired up about? We got you. So last night was a lot of fun. This team is a lot of fun. These freshmen are going to be a lot of fun for years to come. And this pod was a lot of fun. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Thanks to everyone for listening. As always, go Pokes.
All right, we're clear.